TV Toastmasters Advanced Club 9523 is hereby open. Good morning, Cincinnati.
Good morning.
Today we'd like to welcome our television audience, our members here in the studio. We have some special guests here today, and I'm going to take them one by one rather than read all their names. The first special guest is Earl Blanks. And I did this randomly. Somehow just wrote the names down. The second guest is Doug Breitfelder. Rita Ferguson. Helen Gilbert. And Gloria Darby. Okay. We got a lot of guests here today. So it looks like we're going to have a good program, and I'm going to get right to business. At this time, I'm going to welcome our contest Toastmaster, Laura Lee Gayfield.
Thank you, Gordon. Welcome, fellow Toastmasters and our TV audience. Today, our TV Toastmaster meeting is a little bit different, but twice a year we have contests. This being the spring, or soon to be the spring, right? No more snowstorms, I hope. We are having our international speech contest and the evaluation contest today. So that helps explain why we have so many guests, because we have a lot of people helping fill out the roles to make the contest fair and successful for those that are participating. To help out with the contest, we have an additional role of the chief judge, who is being filled by Darren Henderson for us today. Darren, as chief judge, have the participants and judges been briefed?
Yes, they have.
Thank you. The first part of our contest is going to be the evaluation part of the contest. We have a target speaker, who is one of our guests today, who will come up, do his speech, and then the people that are participating in the evaluation contest can take notes. They'll leave the room, and then they'll come up and give positives and room for improvement on the target speaker's speech, and then the judges will figure out who gave the best evaluation. Our target speaker today is one of our guests. His name is Doug Breitfelder. He is joining us today from another Cincinnati Club Talk Toastmasters that meets in Milford. And Doug's speech is called The Opposite of Success. Please join me in welcoming our target speaker, Doug Breitfelder, Opposite of Success.
Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our TV audience, what is the opposite of success? As I travel around, I ask this question all the time. I'm amazed at the answers that I get. Most people will tell me, and I'm sure there's a few in this room who think that failure is the opposite of success. Well, I disagree with that. After all, Thomas Edison failed nearly 2,000 times before he got one working model for the light bulb. 2,000 failures, one success. Now, surely you don't think that he was a failure, do you? I think that the opposite of success is not failure. In fact, failure is an important step to all success. Now, I don't care who you are. Nobody in this room or anywhere has ever come up with an idea, put together a working model, and got success from it. Everybody hits speed bumps along the way. Therefore, the opposite of success is quitting. I want to share two stories with you. Henry Ford once said that the person that we are tomorrow is the same as we are today, with the exception of the people that we associate with and the books that we read. And he would know. After all, he associated with the likes of Thomas Edison, Alexander Graham Bell. You see, Henry Ford was famous for the automobile. Now, he didn't invent the automobile, but what he did was he was able to streamline the automobile in the production of it, making it affordable for everyone. But his legacy goes so much deeper than that. His idea for the assembly line was adopted in every factory across the world, streamlining the production, lowering the cost to produce, and raising the demand. Now, Henry Ford was not a very successful man his first 5 times out. You may not know this, but he actually filed bankruptcy 5 times. But his 6th company was very successful. So successful that I would venture to say there's a few people in this room who pay him money every single month. I know I do. Now, somebody that you may not have heard of is a man by the name of Walter Hunt. Walter Hunt was an engineer in the late 1700s and the early 1800s. And he invented the sewing machine. But his friends and family told him that the sewing machine would cause unemployment. It would kill the U.S. economy. He didn't want to be responsible for that, so he chucked the idea, never patented the idea. Later, Elias Howe took those very same plans, created the sewing machine. By streamlining the way that clothing was made, he did not cause unemployment. He did the opposite. It created jobs. Well, later, Walter Hunt invented the fountain pen. Again, he was told there's nothing wrong with sticking a feather in a vat of ink. I think we could all agree that the fountain pen would have been a pretty good idea. In fact, perhaps we'd all be taking notes on our Hunt pen instead of our big pens. But later still, Walter took a piece of wire and folded it into a locking oval and created the first safety pin. He remembers not thinking very highly of this idea and sold it to a friend for $100 so that he could pay off his debt and buy some groceries. And Walter Hunt died penniless at his workbench with about a dozen or so half-finished ideas. Later, people came in and took those ideas. And the products that came from that, the Winchester repeating rifle, the snowplow, the knife sharpener, the bicycle, the tricycle, and the coal-burning stove. How would his life have been different had he seen one idea through? Just one. How would the world have changed if he had associated with the right people? In 2 Corinthians in the Bible, it tells us, do not be yoked with the unbeliever. I believe that means a lot more than just a biblical or a Christian philosophy. I believe they're trying to warn us that we should not be associating with people who do not believe in us. After all, it is said that positive people with good people skills are motivators, but negative people with good people skills are manipulators. Now, the reason I told those 2 stories today is because I believe that we all have a little Walter Hunt inside of us. But I also believe that there is a Henry Ford inside of all of us. The devil on one shoulder, the angel on the other. And I guess my question to you is very simple. What type of person do you want to be? Do you want to be the motivator or the manipulator? Do you want to be the next Henry Ford or the next Walter Hunt? Thank you.
Thank you, Doug, for inspiring us and informing us the opposite of success. Now, resuming our contest, after having evaluated Doug's opposite of success speech, Anita Barron will do her evaluation of Doug's speech. Please welcome Anita Barron.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, Contest Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, and especially the people out in TV land, and especially Doug Breitfelder. Very, very inspiring speech. I do this for a living, and so this is true to my heart. It really just resonated. Your speech title, Opposite of Success, was very enlightening because it's a question, and you're presenting something that, okay, what is the answer? You know, everybody's thinking about it. So that was just grabbing people's attention. It was very obvious you were very comfortable in the audience, you know, having an audience you're talking with and presenting an idea and discussing it with them. And it is very obvious it was very close to your heart as well, the topic. You addressed the knee-jerk answer that most people would come up, you know, left, right, hot, cold, success, failure. So you got that out of the way quickly and explained to them that why that answer was not correct. You gave us the real definition of failure is not that you have failed, it is that you have found the ways that don't work. And that as long as you don't quit, you're just resolving which ways do not work. So, and then you, of course, went into quitting is the opposite of success. The examples were wonderful because you basically went through some prime examples that these guys went through all kinds of failures, you know, in their accomplishments, getting to their accomplishments. And then giving us the example opposite of Henry Ford, where Walter listened to the people that were telling him, no, you can't do that. You know, that's not the way it's supposed to be done. And so giving people, oh, okay, that's what quitting's about. It's not failing until you stop doing it. So that was a beautiful example. And I learned a lot out of this speech as far as what Walter Hunt gave us that we really did not know about. And we will not know, not unless somebody like you gives that information to us, because there's other people that brought those to our reality. And the fact that, great examples. The eye contact could be a little more, and I'm doing the same thing, a little more to all of the audience. And of course, that's just a practice. And it's very easy to get into talking with people that are here versus out in TV land. So, but all in all, it was a very inspiring speech, and I thank you very much for your very enlightening ideas. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. Continuing the evaluation part of our contest today is our second contestant, Steve Ahrenholz. Please welcome our second contestant for the evaluation contest, Steve Ahrenholz.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, our honored guests, and our television audience. And Doug, the opposite of success. I think that was an excellent way to open your speech, posing a question to us. And of course, one of the things that we often think of is, well, it's failure, but it's not, it's quitting. You gave us two examples of individuals who had had a number of failures, yet you showed us the contrast between failure and success and failure and quitting. I liked your use of gestures. I thought that the one where you took your hands and you made the gesture of making a safety pin was particularly good. It gave us a little bit more insight into what you were talking about. You engaged the audience, although one of the things I'd caution you on about that, I was sitting way in the back and it seemed that most of your attention was down here in the front of the audience. Be careful to include all of your audience. That's one thing I would suggest you consider looking at. I thought that some of your other gestures were excellent as well. The one where you talked about the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other shoulder, and you moved your head one side to the other as to which one you would have sitting there talking to you. I thought that one of the things that you do need to be careful of with your gestures is that you tended to move your hands from one side to the other when you weren't doing some of your other gestures. Be careful that you don't wind up with some non-purposeful gestures and that it just becomes a bit distracting, because that was one of the things that I noted towards the end of your speech. Because you don't have to move your hands if you don't have something specific that you want to do with them. I thought that your voice inflection was good, and pauses. There were a couple of places where a little bit longer pause would have given some additional emphasis to your points. Overall, I would say that your speech was very good. I enjoyed it very much. I think that if you think about some of the things like judicious use of a little bit longer pause, be careful that some of your hand gestures don't become monotonous or mechanical. And I thought that your overall structure was very good. Your examples were excellent. And I'm glad I had the opportunity to hear your presentation. I'll look forward to hearing your next one. Madam Toastmaster?
Thank you, Steve. And now may I have a minute for the judges to make their remarks. Now we would like to welcome our third contestant in the evaluation contest today, Sheila Mudd-Baker. Please join me in welcoming Sheila Mudd-Baker.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, guests at home, Doug. What did I like? I liked the fact that your speech took two almost hackneyed ideas of Edison and Ford. We hear Edison and Ford speeches all the time, but you took it and you added a new story, Walter Hunt. I've never, ever heard of Walter Hunt before. And when you think about it, you took old stories and made a twist that made it very, very different. I also liked you using Edison's quote and then tying examples through Walter Hunt's life and then reinforcing it with a biblical quote. So you took the same message and you kept returning to the message, returning to the message. And our strong message that came out of that is don't quit when you've got a good idea. And while you're at it, make sure you surround yourself with people who want to help you follow that good idea and be even better. Now, what could help to make this even better? And I really enjoyed your speech. Well, one of the things I noticed, you kept putting your fingers into your coat and holding your hands in here. Now, you did do other things, but the first time you did it, I thought, well, that's interesting. What, is he going to close his coat? And then I saw you kept repeating and repeating. Then I saw that you kept putting your hands in here. Nothing wrong with doing that every once in a while. But if you keep your gestures low, in this case, the audience can't see you, the camera can't see you. So you were fine when you were up here. So one of the things you can do, even in a small room like this, even on a small screen, is put your hands out here or move out towards the camera. Do something that opens up your body. Another thing I would like to see is a little more vocal variety. You have good vocal variety, but if you want to press, there are like 2 or 3 times in the speech that you need to be a little bigger. I believe the beginning, the middle, and the end, at least once, you have a bigger voice or a stronger voice. So if I could have seen that, it gives even more structure to the speech and reinforces the message. All in all, a really nice speech. Thank you for giving it. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Sheila. Yes, I would like to take this opportunity to interview the 3 people who participated in our evaluation contest. So can I have Steve, Anita, and Sheila back up here towards the front? Yay! This was, I think everybody kind of signed up at the last moment to participate, but that's fine. It all counts and it all makes for an interesting meeting and more experience for you and for us watching you do the evaluations. So the first person I would like to interview is Anita. Anita, would you come up here to the screen, please? You have a couple of different occupations. I'm assuming that some of them pay better than others. The animal rescue may be close to your heart, but probably doesn't pay very well.
It pays in spiritual.
Exactly. Giving back is just as important. And you've done several speeches about the animal rescue part of your life and how near and dear that is to your heart, a phrase you like to use yourself. But what about the people part of helping the people? We've heard about you helping animals. I didn't really realize that your day job was helping people. Can you share with us some of your experiences with that?
Sure, thank you. Actually, I am just starting on this venture, and I've been doing it personally for many, many years, self-development and trying to make my life what I want it, because I have bigger visions than where I am now. And if everybody, a lot of people have seen The Secret, the DVD The Secret, and through that, Bob Proctor, who's the gray-haired gentleman on there. And so last year I signed up for his coaching program and actually started into this. In a couple of weeks I'll be going with my husband to the March consulting training so I can actually start teaching his material. And I've started a weekly action meeting over in Eastgate, actually, at the Holiday Inn on every Thursday, 7 to 8:30 in the evening. And that's where there's so many groups out there that have for a vice. You know, you've got the AA, you've got Weight Watchers, something that they're trying to get over or get through for themselves. And so this is about the weekly action meetings are about us getting in a group of like-minded people, which you definitely said you needed to be around positive people that want the same things, as well as all the other groups do. They want something that they're trying to do for themselves. And this is about moving forward and supporting them in their goals. So that's where we are now.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anita, and good luck in that new endeavor of yours. It sounds very interesting. Great speech material for later, I'm sure. Guess what happened last week? And our second participant in the evaluation contest was Steve Ahrenholz. Steve, you want to come up here for a minute? In your interests, you have gardening and yard work. What are some of the more ambitious projects you've taken on and some of the things that you'll avoid at all costs?
Well, ambitious and not necessarily successful has been trying to deal with moles that somehow, even though Claremont County has lots and lots of clay that gets really hard, they seem to be able to dig through there. I mean, I think we're starting our own mountain range. It's going to take a while. Other things that I practice a certain amount of natural selection with my gardening. Get natural selection being that whatever is the most suited or the most adaptable is what survives. My approach is if it can't hack it tough, we'll see what survives and what doesn't. I will do all kinds of things to try and get stuff to grow, but I'll have too much shade or I'll have problems with it being too hot. So I like to mess with things in the yard and things in my garden because I have an office that has no exterior windows, so I have no natural light. I like to see how the yard looks when I get things to grow the way they should. But I think for me it's more an issue of just getting outside. And this year I'm going to be trying to do some things like fill in the ground where the tree roots are emerging, and right now we tend to trip over them. But I've realized that a cubic yard of dirt is a ton. So when I buy 3 or 4 cubic yards, that means I'm going to be moving 3 or 4 cubic yards and 3 or 4 tons of dirt. So that's probably my biggest project that's coming up this year.
Thank you very much. Note to self. 1 cubic ton of dirt equals 1 ton, 2,000 pounds. So definitely have some help that day or expect some time at the chiropractic later. And Sheila. Sheila was our 3rd contestant in the evaluation contest. And she has made some changes to her life recently as far as jobs, whether she's getting paid for them or otherwise. So why don't you tell us a little about some of your upcoming endeavors that you have coming up, Sheila?
Well, thank you. I have a lot coming up. Some of them are new, some are not. number one, the conference, the Toastmasters conference is coming up April 25th, 26th, and 27th. I am the education chair. Fabulous. I've never done that before. It is wonderful. It's going to be a great conference. Doing more acting. I did my first melodrama not very long ago, and it's an interesting experience to act in such a strange way as people act in melodramas. Doing more storytelling. I used to work in human resources, and I did that for 30 years, doing the whole range of human resources. And instead of a new thing, I'm doing an old thing. I'm going back to teaching with the city of Cincinnati, and I'm going to teach Speechcraft, which is very exciting. Speechcraft is one of the programs with Toastmasters, and I'm hoping to involve other Toastmasters. We're going to be starting it in March, and that's only for the Cincinnati Recreation Commission, and since it's a free program, I'm sure that the rest of the city departments would like that too. Free is always good, but you get high quality instructors in this program. And that's about all I'm doing right now that's of really strong interest. Other than forgetting to mention that I'm with Community Shares of Greater Cincinnati, and we have a fundraiser coming up on the 26th of April at the Community Action, and that's Guys, Griddles, and Grubs. And I also have on the 19th, Franciscan Haircuts from the Heart event. I'm doing a lot of events lately, and that's a fundraiser for people who are giving haircuts to the homeless and to the poor, and that'll be at the New Savannah Center in Westchester. Both exciting. Thank you.
Thank you to our evaluation contestants. Sheila, I thought I was busy. Man, you kind of... I have the same thing. I don't have one passion like Anita does. I have multiple interests, and it's very hard for me to say no, which some of you know that, but my plate is full right now. And now today we will have the second part of our speech contest, which is going to be well, sort of different than before, because instead of 3 contestants, we really only have 1. So today, since he doesn't have any competition, our president, Gordon Kelly, will be doing a demonstration speech and will go on to represent TV Toastmasters in the International Speech Contest at the area contest level coming up here in a few weeks. So please welcome Gordon Kelly, Not My Day to Die. Not My Day to Die, Gordon Kelly.
Not my day to die. Life was going along fairly normal for me, and I guess I had the same ups and downs that everyone else had in life until January 6th of 2005. On that day, I was sitting in a meeting at work, just drinking a cup of coffee, actually sitting back against the wall. Other people were talking, and I spilled this whole cup of coffee on my shirt, pants, and everything. Never done that before in my life. And at the time, I thought, well, this was just a clumsy accident. And I told my boss, I said, I'm going to run home, and I'm going to change clothes, and I'll be back in a few minutes. I only live 3 miles from work, so that's an easy thing for me to do. So I did. I took off, and I headed to the house, went into the kitchen, and I ran up the stairs to the bedroom. Well, when I got to the top of the stairs, I noticed I was kind of short on breath. I thought, well, I went ahead, got my clothes, changed my clothes, headed back down the stairs, back into the Jeep, and back to work. But on the way back, I said, man, that was really unusual. I've never experienced anything like that before. So I said, I'll test it out, which was probably dumb. But I ran up the stairs at work, and then again I felt, I am really out of breath. So at that point, I went to my desk. I didn't do anything else. I called the doctor, and I said, something is not right here. The doctor said, well, we'll check it out. So I think the next day, I went in for an EKG. Doctor performed an EKG. He said, really don't see anything, but he said you could go across the way here to the heart specialist. And I think I scheduled that for the following day because it was closed that day that I was at my doctor's office. So the following day went in for a stress test, went through the whole procedure of a stress test, went in an office, sit down, talk to the doctor. And he said, well, can't really see anything, but we could do a heart catheterization. So we scheduled a heart catheterization for 2 weeks out. And said, okay, left his office about 5:20, something like that, went to my house, walked into the kitchen, and when I walked into the kitchen, maybe it's got something to do with my house, but I walked into the kitchen, and when I walked in, I couldn't breathe. I really had a tight chest, so I said, something's going wrong here. So I leaned over the counter, tried to relax myself, nothing happened. Went and sat down in a seat, tried to relax doing that, nothing happened, it didn't change. At that point in time, I says, something's not right here. So I picked up the phone, called 911, and just said, I'm having a heart attack. And the lady on the other end wanted to know how I knew I was having a heart attack. Well, I hung the phone up or whatever. It was like, I'm having a heart attack, you know, and she was getting an ambulance on the way. So I'm standing there in the kitchen thinking, should I wait on this ambulance in the kitchen and possibly die in the kitchen? And this is really what it came down to, is where do you want to die? So I said, in the kitchen, or do I go out in the yard and wait on this ambulance and maybe fall over in the yard dead? So I said, I'll stay in the kitchen. And that was a mistake. I said, everything was a mistake here. So I stayed in the kitchen, the ambulance went right by my house, down a hill, and just went right by me. So now I had to run out into the yard, down the hill, wave the ambulance back. I'm the guy with the heart attack. I'm waving down back. So they finally backed up. I, kind of knocked on. I actually did. I went to the door and I was like, let me in this ambulance. And I got in there and I laid down. And it was like, once they gave me nitroglycerin and stuff, they were in no rush to get me to this hospital. And my wife showed up. She got in the ambulance, and then we headed to the hospital. Well, once we were in the hospital, the doctor, they were kind of looking at me, the doctor and the nurses. And my wife, if you ever meet my wife, she's one of the most calm people you will ever meet. And she's just standing there, the doctor's over here and the nurses, and one of them, the doctor's asking questions to the nurse, and they're like, well, the equipment's malfunctioning. And the doctor looks at one of the nurses and says, why don't we use the equipment in the other room? And this lady looked at the doctor and said, it's broken. They had to actually take my wife out of the room at that point because it wasn't anything good. So at this point now we're waiting on a helicopter to show up from Cincinnati. And again, this happened at 5:38. So we're waiting on the helicopter, and they put a thermal blanket on me over my head, my entire body. Rolled me out to the helicopter, pushed me in this, I don't know if it was like a busy day, but this helicopter was small. Pushed me back in there, and nurse sat by me. So we take off. Now I'm like 105 degrees. I'm not kidding you. I'm sweating. I'm burning up. I'm telling this nurse, I said, this is making me sick. Can you get me some air? And she goes, sure. And she reaches over. There's a window right by my head. She opens the window. She takes this off my head. My head is totally freezing. This is January. The rest of my body is totally burning up. So what does that cause me to do? I vomit. The last thing you want a heart attack patient to do is vomit. That's not what you want them to do. Well, eventually we made it to the University of Cincinnati Hospital, and it had to be around, I want to say 9 o'clock or so. And I think it was the pilot and the nurse rolled me into the hospital, and between the two of them, they were lost. This is like, it's hard to believe. They didn't know where to take me. So they made a few turns here and there, and they finally went into this operating room where they put 2 stents in, and recovery began. Before my heart attack, a good 12 to 15 years before that, I had not eaten any red meat, basically none. I watched my weight a lot. I played racquetball and tennis all the time. And I still had a heart attack. I remember somebody saying to me after the heart attack, though, because they knew me personally for most of my life, and they says, I guess that's what clean living gets you. Because I really didn't drink or smoke. I've never really done any of that. But recently, I've tried to figure out how a heart attack affects your life expectancy. So I asked my doctor. Again, not a whole lot of use there. He said, talk to the insurance company, okay? This is honest. I talked to, tried, forget that, that's, forget it. So then I went into Google, because we all Google, and I Googled up life expectancy. And Google comes back with death forecast. So this is true. You can go in and get a death forecast. So I plugged everything in there, and it looks like I'll live to be about 80, 81 is what it's saying. So the point there is, it just wasn't my day to die at that point in time. But the moral of the story is, we need to get everything out of life that we possibly can, because we really don't know when we're going to die. And I think something that goes along with that is, we need to get everything, since we need to get everything out of life, one way to do that is to join Toastmasters and get over your fear of public speaking. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Gordon. very inspiring not to die. And I hope that the death forecast of 80 or 81 is at least more accurate than our weather forecasts in the Cincinnati area have been over the past few months. Couldn't resist. Sorry, weather guys. Okay. We know that Gordon, as being the only one competing in our international speech contest, doing your demonstration speech, will move on to the area contest. Yay! And he is so excited about another 2-hour drive into Cincinnati to do that. But may I also have our 3 contestants from the evaluation speech, the evaluation part of the contest, Anita, Steve, and Sheila Baker. Please join me in congratulating our second place evaluation contestant, sorry, Mr. Steve Ahrenholz. Steve, congratulations. Thank you. And also congratulate our first place winner, Sheila Baker. Sheila. Congratulations to the 2 of you, and thank you all for participating. You may have a seat if you would like. Help me out here. Let's see. Sheila will represent TV Toastmasters at the Area 53 contest, which is coming up on March 31st. If Sheila, thank you. March 31st at 6 o'clock. Ooh, refreshments. It's always a good one. Need to have refreshments. It'll be hosted by ACE, Advanced Communicators and Evaluators, at the Kenwood Baptist Church over by Kenwood Town Center. So that's Monday, March 31st. Sheila Baker will represent TV Toastmasters in the evaluation contest. In the event she's not able to make it, Steve will be the alternate. And Gordon, you don't have an alternate, so you just have to be there to represent TV Toastmasters for the evaluation part of the contest. You didn't see a whole lot of people up here today outside of our contest participants, but there were a lot of people here in the TV audience, or in our studio audience, that helped make today's contest a success. So please join me in thanking our Sergeant at Arms, Linda Ketchum. Linda, thank you. Our timers, Mary Arms and Carol Cormelink. Our counter, Carol Cormelink. And did anybody else help with counting? And Mary and Darren. So thank you very much for counting. For counting the judges' ballots, just figure out the placements, not how many heads are in the room. And also thank you to our judges who are also our guests today, Earl Blanks, Rita Ferguson, Gloria Darby, and Helen Gilbert. Thank you for coming, we appreciate it. And at this time, I would like to return control of our meeting to our president, Gordon Kelly. Gordon?
Thank you, Madam President. Is there anything else with the contest that we're supposed to do? Everything's good there? Well, yeah, let's. Okay. Yeah, we'll go back and thank everyone, actually, but, and I want to say his name right, Doug Breitfelder. Thank you very much. Actually, this is great to have this many guests here today, and if you guys, somebody wants to sign up for this club, I mean, we would really appreciate it. And it is different having the TV there looking at you all the time. It's like one big eye kind of looking at you. I don't know if the other camera is on too, or both of them, or just the one, but it's interesting. One, I think as an audience, and I was guilty of this today, we all need to pay strict attention to the speaker. Maybe you guys did good. I was sitting in front. I don't know. I'm actually criticizing myself because I wrote while the speaker was talking a few times, but I just had to take some notes. And one thing about this, and I'm not as experienced, of course, as Carol, but it seems like we have a lot of good speakers. I mean, people do a really good job up here, I think. So I think that's great. The scripture about being unevenly yoked. You know, does anybody really understand that scripture? I've heard people talk about this my whole life, and I've heard so many different opinions, and I would really like to understand exactly what it means, and I'm not sure I do. One thing, I wrote a note. Anita, that's a great ring you got on there. I don't know if you noticed, but when you're here with that light on there, that thing is just sparkling. Anyway, that's all I had, really. I want to just thank the guests again. Thought it was a real good program that we had today, and I hope you also thought it was a good program. Our open house will be held May 10th, 2008, 9:45 at Anderson Center. That's May 10th. And you can call our number, and we can give you directions and information on it if anyone's interested in showing up, and we hope you are, especially the Cincinnati area. You should be out here. There's 25 of us here today, but there should be more like 40. So we really would like you to show up and participate. At this time, TV Toastmasters Advanced Club 9523 is hereby closed.